conversation about Ferrari in Spain needs to be had. Because did they cost themselves a shot at a podium? Well, yeah, I think they cost themselves at least a shot, I think, with Leclerc. It was a combination of things. First off, the move Sainz pulled early in the race, and then just the way the strategy unfolded for there. First off, let's discuss the Sainz move. He got the run with DRS behind Leclerc, who then defends on the inside while Sainz goes to the outside, and yes, he is ahead at the apex, but Charles is still there. And Sainz is turning into the corner as if he isn't there, or can just disappear in an instant. Which, newsflash, if a car is still there on your inside, they kind of disappear in an instant. They make contact, Sainz attacks the escape rod through turn 2 and keeps the position. Overtake done. Now, as Charles himself said after the race, the fact that Sainz went for an overtake isn't exactly the problem. It's a race, you know, you want to overtake cars, but it's rather the way he did it. Because rule 1, don't hate your teammate. Rule 2, leave a damn car's width. Rule 1 was very much broken here because, as I said, they made contact. And looking at this image here, kind of looks to me like Rule 2 was broken in my opinion. Because to me it doesn't look like there was a car's width left. Because I mean, Leclerc was already halfway on the damn curb and there was nothing between the cars. It could be argued that Leclerc should have backed out of it. And sure, yeah, maybe he should have. But there's also the question, should Sainz have been going for the move anyway? When judging from Leclerc's interviews post-race, they'd been told before the race to save tires early on, which Leclerc was doing, but Sainz, in attacking Leclerc, clearly had other ideas. As I say, the fact he went for an overtake isn't really a problem, it's the fact that they'd been told to save tires. Or well, according to Charles, they'd been told to save tires early on. This is what he said on the whole Sainz thing. We were told to save tires at the start. I braked at the same time as him, and then he made the turn as if I wasn't there. I had damage on the front left, I lost a few points at the front. We lost time there. He also said, it's a shame because the team had told us before the race to save the tires at this moment of the race, so I was doing exactly that. In the last corner, it's a really nice corner to save, but I think Carlos used that one lap pushing a lot in turn 14 and was very close to me, and overtook, which was fine, but then he obviously did the corner like I wasn't there. It's a bit of a shame. Anyway, we'll speak internally, it's not a big deal. I understand this home race and a very important moment of his career, and I guess he wanted to do something spectacular, but I probably wasn't the right person to do that with. But now this is what Carlos had to say after the race, and seemingly he'd been told to do something different before the race. Charles wasn't happy with me? For me, it was clear. We had new softs and we had to attack. I don't know what happened to him in the first lap, but I couldn't stay behind him all my life. I don't know what he's complaining about this time. He also said, we were on a new soft, Mercedes were on used soft, we had to go on the attack, like we said even before the race. I passed Charles because he was managing too much. I then passed Lewis, I nearly passed Russell at the pit stop. I think I was doing what was required. Charles elected to manage more, and in the end it paid off for him as he beat me on a soft, medium, soft. You say Charles was managing too much. He always manages early in the race. Like, as Sarah points out here, Charles always does a slow introduction, especially at the beginning of a race. Like, examples, Austria 2022. He was backing away from Max to begin with, then he closed back in because he'd been saving the tires early and instead managing them. Las Vegas last year, he'd fallen a bit back for Max, but then he closed back in. He'd been managing the tires early on. And finally, on what Sainz had to say, it's too many times after the race he complained about something. I'm sorry, pot calling kettle black, Carlos. It's too many times that you complain about something during the damn race. I mean, exactly how many times were you whinging about something on the radio during this race? And do you not remember when you were whinging about this small incident with Oscar in Miami for a solid couple of laps after it happened? I could go on, but I won't. So moving on to 5 words I never thought I would say. I agree with Damon Hill. I do not agree with many of his takes, but this one I do. Simon Lazenby had asked if Charles does complain too much after the races, to which Damon said, Carlos just complained about Lewis, they're all the same. And yeah, I agree, he's right. I mean, come on, I'm pretty sure part of the job description of a racing driver is professional complainer, because they all whinge. Also, we were told to save tires at the start is what Charles is saying, but we had to go on the attack, like we said even before the race, is what Carlos is saying. Which is it then? What were you told to do? Were you told to use the new tire advantage and attack Mercedes, or were you told to save the tires and manage early on? And if you were told different things, Charles to save, Carlos to attack, why? That is a recipe for Well, what happened? A near double DNF again. I will say that, yeah, it is easy to say that Leclerc should expect things like this for Sainz from now on. He's leaving the team at the end of the year. He'll be out to make himself look as best as possible to their teams. But yeah, sure, fair. But first of all, Ferrari should be managing this shit and making sure it doesn't happen. And second, overtaking your teammate, which again, that's not exactly the problem, I'll reiterate. And then turning into the apex whilst he's still there as if he isn't, which is the problem with that overtake. And then saying after the race how it's too many times Charles complains about things after the race. And then also yourself complaining about the overtake Hamilton made, which while robust was in my opinion hard but fair racing. This isn't the way to do it, mate. And not to mention, if Carlos is trying to make himself look good to other teams, like, if the word online is to be believed, he literally has a contract sitting in front of him, waiting to be signed. Audi wants him. Williams wants him. Teams already want him. He needs to be careful he doesn't damage that. I do also want to point out this reply to one of Daniel Volante's tweets, where this person, Anthony, says how this tension between Leclerc and Sainz has been brewing for a while, and probably before the team even gave Hamilton a contract. He says it probably even contributed to Ferrari deciding to do that, he thinks. But the difference is that now, it isn't a behind closed doors. And honestly, he has a point. There does seem to just some tension that's been bubbling away for a while between them. It kind of started to publicly surface in China, and it seems like that moment early on here in Spain is the straw that broke the camel's back, really. Ferrari do need to sort this whatever it is that's between Leclerc and Sainz though, because there is clearly something going on. There's some tension or whatever that needs to be addressed and managed by the team. We all cane about it, so they kind of really just try and hide it and act like all is well and they're the best of friends. And as Sarah says, it should be dealt with privately. I mean, if they'd done a sort this, it could cost themselves a shot at the Constructors' title, which is honestly up for grabs with the way Checo is going and how close it is at the front. Because here's the thing, Ferrari really aren't that far away. Red Bull, McLaren, they're there with them, you know, Mercedes as well. Ferrari, I love you, but please sort this. But to sum up, before I move on, Leclerc wasn't happy with the quote-unquote teamwork of his teammate, and frankly, this ain't a new thing. Although to Sainz's credit, he did move out the way as instructed later on in the race. Sainz seemingly didn't get why Charles wasn't happy about it. The Ferrari PR team are probably crying into whatever their drink of choice is having to deal with this PR mess civil war that's kind of kicked off. And I'm counting down the days until we don't have to put it with Sainz and Ferrari anymore. Oh, come on. It's not exactly a secret over here on this channel that I don't really like Sainz. I'll praise him when he does a good job, because just because I don't like the guy doesn't mean I cannot admit when he does a good job. Like, for example, Australia, honestly, he was amazing. But this ain't one of those times. This ain't Australia. Now, moving on, there's a strategy aspect of things which also contributed. And first of all, kudos to Leclerc on shooting down Ferrari, trying to put him on the damn hard tire, which was a mistake with Sainz. But the Charles side of things is what I want to speak about, because that's where the podium chances could have been had they not had some strategy confusion, I'll word it. It seems like Leclerc had been told they were going to go plan B, whatever plan B was. I assume that was going longer or something. He'd gone longer, done more managing his pace in the first stint to go longer. Then when they did pit him, he's changed to plan A. And he wasn't all that happy to begin with, and understandably, honestly, because he was on the same strategy as everybody else around him, really, but he just went needlessly longer on the first stint. I mean, yeah, it gave him a good tire offset, but still. And in that second stint on the mediums, his pace was really, really good. Honestly, he was in the 1 minute 19th for most of that medium stint. His last stint on the softs was also really good. Looking at his pace relative to Hamilton, who, let's be fair, that's who he would have been fighting for a podium. Honestly, it was pretty good. Shout out to multi-viewer, by the way, that's where this info came from. It could be argued that the tire offset helped him, but, well, walking. Even without that offset, I do think he could have at least fought Hamilton for P3, because if you look at the starting pace of their stints, it wasn't too dissimilar, really. Maybe Ferrari should have swapped the cars back early on in that first stint after Sainz passed, because let's be real, 8 times out of 10, Leclerc is the quicker Ferrari driver, and he was that today. So, long explanation short, yeah, I think Ferrari did cost themselves a shot at a podium in Spain. But, as a certain Monegasque always says, it's like this. And anyway, it was really nice to see Hamilton back on the podium. About damn time he got a podium this year. But what do you think of all this? Let me get your thoughts down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.